Good morning. Welcome to the Central Berkshire County's League of Women Voters chapter of our first candidate forum. This is our beginning. Our little chapter is 3 years old, and it's the newest member of the Massachusetts League of Women Voters, which has 47 of them across our state. And if you come from another state, you'll have another state chapter, and all of them looked to the U.S. chapter in Washington, D.C., and they rely on this bubble effect of all the local chapters feeding in. So we are particularly glad to host this event, and we're delighted to have you here. We're going to test our skills and our capacities. As our first time doing a candidate forum, we're relying on a moderator from another chapter. And Jennifer Howlett is here from Williamstown today, and she's had a great deal of experience hosting candidate forums and a long career at IBM. So we're very delighted to have her excellence and expertise here with us. Thank you for coming.
Happy to be here.
We all learned in high school history and civics classes about the ways our democratic system of government works. But we knew then, as we know now, that it's an imperfect mix of multiple views. And today we're going to educate ourselves to be a better educated voter electorate. I want to thank each of our candidates for being here today, and the ones who are uncontested are also going to have a chance to introduce themselves at the end of the debate. So we can only host this if everyone shows up. It's your opportunity to be heard and seen in real time as a real person, and we're so appreciative of that. So now, Jennifer, take the helm as moderator. Thanks so much for being here.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this candidate panel brought to you by the Central Berkshire County League of Women Voters and the Community Television for the Southern Berkshires. I'm Jennifer Howlett. I'm a member of the League and the moderator for this candidate panel. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan group of men and women dedicated to informing the voting public in the interest of our democracy. Today's panel will consist of 3 parts. Part 1 will be for the 2 candidates running for Select Board. Part 2 for the 2 candidates running for Parks and Recreation Commissioner. And Part 3 for the candidates who are running uncontested for the Board of Health, the Board of Assessors, the Planning Board, and the Water and Sewer Commission. They will each have a chance to give their statements and introduce themselves to the voters of Stockbridge after we have the back and forth discussions with these other 2 panels. I want to say thank you to all of you on behalf of the citizens of Stockbridge for your willingness to serve the community. And thank you all as well for being here today and giving us all this chance to get to know each other and the candidates better. We're going to hear first from the candidates for Select Board, Patrick White and Roxanne McCaffrey. These candidates will be contending for 1 open seat on the board. As a reminder, the Select Board consists of 5 members in total, each of whom serves for 3 years. 3. I apologize. I thought I got that off the web. I said I'd make mistakes on camera, and I've already made one. In a moment, you'll hear directly from the candidates, but before they speak, I would like to briefly outline the format for this part of today's candidate panel. We will start with an introductory statement from each candidate. The statements will be followed by a question and answer period, and questions have been taken from online submissions that were mailed in to us in advance, as well as from cards submitted by members of the audience on the floor today. All questions must be of a general nature and not directed toward any one candidate in particular. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond, plus an additional 30 seconds of rebuttal if requested. We will then hear closing statements from each candidate. We will, of course, repeat this format for the Parks and Recreation Commissioner seat, and after that, we will hear from the other 4 candidates on the ballot. Finally, I will give you the latest voter information that was provided by your town clerk, Terry Emilini. Now let's welcome our candidates for Select Board and hear their introductory statements. And I'd like to ask Patrick to go first, please.
Patrick White. First, thank you all for taking the time to be here today. I really appreciate it. Oh, all right.
We should
Hello,
test.
can you hear? All right, well, this is going to be interesting. Thank you for taking the time to be here today. I really appreciate it. The Select Board is the town's executive, and its job is to conduct the business of the town. My job on this board is to work hard, act impartially, and ethically as I answer the question, what is in the town's best interest? How do I approach that role? The Select Board is often the decision maker. Our job is to make the final decisions, not to micromanage. I strongly believe in the chain of command. We do our job and let the town administrator and the staff do their job. The Select Board has 5 main responsibilities. First is permits. My approach is a plain read of our bylaws. The same rules govern us all, and I apply them evenly with fairness. The second is appointments. The Select Board is responsible for dozens of appointments to town boards, nearly 100 actually. I have personally recruited around 24 new candidates in the past 3 years. I take this responsibility seriously, and I've tried to bring new people into government. Third is build consensus. I recognize the prerogatives and responsibilities vested in other town boards, and my job is to let them do their job. Yet at times, boards overlap. In these instances, I encourage boards to communicate with each other to avoid silos. When we work together, we get the best possible outcome. Fourth is to act on your behalf. When you need something, you have an idea, or you have a concern, I respond. My number is widely available. A lot of people use it. I get anywhere from 10 to 30 calls or emails a week from you. I encourage this. Fifth is vision. It is the responsibility of the Select Board to set the long-term direction of the town. For our seniors, some of whom are on fixed incomes, I have focused on quality of life and affordability issues. For those younger residents raising a family here, I have focused on lowering taxes, schools, and recreation. I will continue to do so. All I can say is this is a great town. Let's keep it that way, and let's work together to make it even better. And I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters.
Thank you very much. Roxanne McCaffrey will now make her statement.
All right, can you hear me? No?
You gotta go really close.
Let's put this down a little bit.
It's gonna be hard.
Oh, come on. No, that's not going to work. Just tilt it then.
Yeah.
Get it close to
There
you.
we
Yeah, there you go.
How's that?
Not
No?
great. You
I'm
gotta
afraid of this.
put your mouth right on it. No.
Yeah, this is gonna be,
Yeah.
this is good right here? All right, thank you, Carol. All right, for those of you who don't know me, I've been a Stockbridge,
Yeah, you gotta be really.
all right. I've been a,
Hold it close in there. There you go.
first time I can't see. Pardon me?
Yep.
Okay, how's that, testing? That's better? Wonderful. All right, for those of you that don't know me, I've been a Stockbridge resident for 50 years. My professional background is in information technology and real estate, working as an IT director and then as broker of my own real estate firm. I currently serve as the chairman of the Stockbridge Bowl Stewardship Commission. I serve on the pilot committee and as director of the Stockbridge Council on Aging. While serving on the Select Board from 2019 to 2022, I sought to heal the contentiousness that had become apparent in town government. While serving on the Select Board, I proposed the Stockbridge Bowl Stewardship Commission to address Stockbridge Bowl issues in a unified manner with all stakeholders, bringing part-time and full-time residents together to protect our environment and a natural resource that really is critical to our town's economic health. Change is often feared, but it really is inevitable. How change is managed is what determines our future. We are a mixed community of part-time and full-time residents. We are still a destination for travelers and host many nonprofit organizations. My vision for Stockbridge is realistic and long-sighted, but most of all, it's inclusive and united. We are a town that supports who we are in equal measure to who we want to be. I would like to focus on ensuring that public safety and welfare remains a top priority, provide comprehensive support services and additional housing opportunities for our lifelong residents to avoid unwanted relocation, find creative solutions that diversify housing opportunities for younger families and workforce so they too can make Stockbridge their home, ensure that Stockbridge remains a welcoming place for part-time residents that are part of the fabric of our community and have been for generations. Our community is a complex weave that must not be unraveled. We are stronger together. We all contribute to this beautiful, unique whole cloth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now start the questions. I will alternate between who goes first and who goes second, answering each question. And each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond, plus 30 seconds for rebuttal if requested. So my first question, and I'll start with you, Roxanne. What are your top priorities for your term in office if you are elected to the Select Board?
I think one of the top priorities...
Microphone.
Sorry. This is tough because I have to get so close. I think one of the top priorities really is making sure that we have a unified community, but also providing additional housing that is workforce housing and possibly more affordable housing. We have created a housing authority, and I would like to see that move forward and be productive. I think we also need to look at some of our bylaws, and some of those will be addressed in this annual town meeting, but we need to look at opportunities that diversify the various options that we all have to make it a little bit easier for those of us, we have an aging population, for many of us to be able to remain here if we want to. We can all sell our houses and make a lot of money right now, but we have nowhere to go. And I think that's a really critical need right now.
Thank you. Patrick, what are your top priorities for your term in office if you're elected?
Well, I think if you look at this past year, one priority that we have to figure out is public safety. We are in a town that is, when you think about public safety, it's of course police, fire, and ambulance. There's not many structure fires, thankfully, but we have a lot of ambulance needs in an aging community. And we started a process this year to address that by exploring the idea of partnering with surrounding towns to form intermunicipal agreements to ensure that we have ambulance service for the long term. You may not know this, but we only have a 1-year deal at any given time with Lee that currently provides our ambulance service. So at any given time, the good folks at Lee could say, we can't help you anymore. We need to figure this out, and we need to figure it out in the long term. And it takes tremendous work. I've already been in a number of meetings on this, and the work is just starting. A second, certainly we've got other general concerns about managing the town, and of course we can address those. I think when we think about the stuff I've been reading about in the paper, I think we need to focus on family. So many things are great about this town, but I'm a little bit worried that there's a lot less children than in surrounding towns and in the town when I was growing up. We can't be a victim of our own success. We can't be in a situation where someone can come in and rent a place out on Airbnb for 52 weeks a year and literally transform our neighborhood. And that's already happening on Goodrich Street. It's already happening in my neighborhood in North Stockbridge. It's already starting to happen around town. And I think we need to take an active approach to maintaining the quality of life and in really doing what we can to ensure that young people can afford to raise their family here, that middle-aged folks can afford to have their kids come home, and that seniors have a community and a neighborhood that they want to live in. Thank you.
Thank you.
My turn?
Okay, next question. Both of you have served on the Select Board in the past. Reflecting on that term in office in the past, what accomplishments do you consider that you made in those times?
Well, I think that, let me see, where to start. When I first started out, within the first few months, I addressed the issue at Ice Glen. My neighbor Kate mentioned, who's right in the audience here, mentioned that she thought she saw woolly adelgid on her tree. Frankly, I didn't believe her, but I should have. And I had met Bob Leverett, who is the kind of the old growth dean of old growth forests in the United States. He was on the cover of Smithsonian Magazine about 6 months ago. And I called him up and I said, would you mind walking Ice Glen with me? And he brought out a forester and another expert, and the three of us walked it. And he said, these trees are going to be dead in 2 or 3 years if you don't deal with them. So that first year we dealt with it. We did that together. That was great. I had a hand in creating the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I really prioritized that. Creating the trust fund is the easy part. Funding it is the hard part. And that's why I wrote the residential inclusionary bylaw that I urge you to support. That will allow us to get approximately 2% of revenue for every on every sale. So if there's a revenue from $100 million in development, we'd get about $2 million to support Pinewoods. Pinewoods needs anywhere from $2 to $5 million in work right now. CPC, which is the other funding source, only has a total of $400,000 a year, and you'll never repair Pinewoods with CPC money. Having other sources of money to deal with that is really critical, and I try to focus on those details. I mean, we've accomplished many other things. We looked at, we rewarded our first responders this year. From COVID. I actually made the video to help our merchants promote Christmas during the year of COVID. And I'm being told I'm out of time, and anybody who wants to talk after, I'll tell you many more.
Okay, Roxanne.
Well, I think it should be important to point out that Pinewoods, unfortunately, is under the management of Construct. So that is not under Stockbridge Housing Authority, and it is not the town taxpayers' responsibility to fund maintenance of that property. So just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Actually,
I'm going to want to rebut that.
well, hang on. What I was actually inviting you to do, Roxanne, was to reflect on your time at the select board.
I had raised my
meetings.
hand, so I thought I could.
Well, that would be after you both made things.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
We'll get it sorted out. But
But-
reflecting on your time on the select board, what would you consider your accomplishments to have been?
Well, as Patrick said, I mean, we serve together. And in my view, basically, the entire select board is responsible for any actions that are taken. One person can come up with a particular initiative or proposal, but the bottom line is that we really need to discuss those proposals in detail and in depth. So I think it's important when an idea is put on the table that it doesn't come in as a campaign slogan. I think it's more important to bring it in as an honest idea and then let everyone speak, including your fellow select board members, but also the public. And a lot of great ideas and good suggestions and different ways to approach problems can be had by including more people and respecting other people's opinions and looking farther afield. So I know that when I was on the board, we always welcome people coming in to our meetings. We have Zoom meetings now, which makes it a lot easier for people to attend, and they're always encouraged. We always encourage people to come in and actually make comments. That's how we find out what you think before we get to annual town meeting and you actually do your voting.
Okay. Patrick, you said you have a rebuttal?
Yeah. I would just point out that Pinewoods was originally created using CPC funds, and without the community preservation in Stockbridge, there would have been no Pinewoods. Stockbridge's community preservation supports Pinewoods and Heaton Court, and I support continuing that. The idea that the funding is going to come from the nonprofit construct, where the entire cash flow of that property is $300,000 a year to repair $3 or $4 million in stuff, is crazy. It's also not going to come from the taxpayers. That's why we need alternative sources of revenue, like from developers. Thank you.
So next question. And Roxanne, you'll go first on this one. What special skills and experience do you bring to this job?
Probably, I would say, the strongest piece, and the easiest piece for me, quite frankly, being on the select board, was the administrative managerial role. And in terms of understanding how the operations all interact, so that a great deal of the pleasure for me in working with town hall employees and Department of Public Works employees was actually having experience in that kind of a role, where in the past I have also negotiated union contracts. I have dealt with payroll. I have dealt with every aspect. As an IT manager, I had access to all information. And I was at a level where I was reporting to the president of a $20 million company. So I think probably that is one of my greatest strengths. That and the fact that I also tend to be a very good listener. I want to get all the facts. I'm an excellent researcher, and I will always go out and get my own information. I'm not going to only trust what somebody hands to me. I really want to go out and search far and wide for as much information as I can get. I think the best decisions are made by looking at all the data that's in front of you and listening to all the voices and opinions that come your way. Sometimes the best suggestions come from the least likely places.
Thank you. Okay.
Do I get to answer that one?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, what special skills and experience do you bring?
Let's see. Well, I currently serve as the Chief Financial Officer of the Waldorf School, which, as you folks know, may end up relocating to Old Town Hall. I have for 25 years owned a small communications company as well. I have a long history of volunteering in this town. I think I have both the recent and long-term relationships with folks in town to understand its history, its culture, its character. I also agree with Roxanne that it's important to be a listener. And while others opposed reaching out to the second homeowner community, last summer I actually went to every single second homeowner community to listen to what they had to say. Met with nearly 500 folks, 400 folks, I don't know what it was. Went to Beechwood, Mackinac Heights, Mackinac Shores, Lake Drive, White Pines, Mackinac Terrace, and listened and explained my ideas. And sometimes there was give and take, and it was great. And I just feel like, already we're starting to see some, well, let's stick to the point. Look, I think the fact of the matter is that those CFO skills have come to bear. The original budget that was proposed this year was about 3 or 4% higher than the budget we approved, and that happened because I went through every single line, and I'm the one who basically said, let's pare it down, let's do everything we can, and that resulted in on the average taxpayer savings of $150. So, I think that's all I have to say. I don't need to use the whole 2 minutes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Next question. And I'll ask you to go first on this one,
sorry.
Patrick. How do you think, let me start that one again. Both of you have raised the issue of the vitality of the community with regard to young and old, working and non-working, that sort of thing, and the diversity of the community. How do you think you should do best attract and keep families and young adults in Stockbridge?
I think that's a great question because it's really easy to say that's your goal. It's really easy to say we need young families here, all right? How do you do it, all right? In 1956, there was a study from, let me get his name right, I think his name was Tobit or something like that. He did a study on how families vote with their feet. In other words, the study proved, Tobot was his name, the study showed that this was an MIT study, I think, and it showed that that families choose communities that are aligned with their values and their interests and their needs. In other words, they choose communities with low taxes. They choose communities with great schools. They choose communities with neighborhoods they want to live in. All right. So my strategy is really straightforward, which is I think that we've got some of those things figured out because this is really great town. It is a great community to live in, but it's gotten expensive to live here. So how do we reduce the cost of living here? So I proposed last year something called flex parcel zoning, which would give people by right the ability to build a smaller house with a second unit next to it, rather than just incentivizing McMansions. And Bill Vogt, to his credit, let me get up in front of the planning board and present that. I proposed tax strategies that would have advantaged the first-time home buyers who buy our least expensive properties, all right? The rest of us would have had to pay a little more, including my family, because my house is owned by 2/3 second homeowners. My brother is a second homeowner, but we inherited it from my dad, and so is my sister. So I was proposing a plan that would have raised my taxes and some other folks, because I think it's that important to incentivize young families to move here. How else do we bring young families here? We support making sure Pine Woods is viable.
Roxanne.
Well, again, I'm going to echo, I think because we do have a housing authority, I think we do have to focus on workforce and affordable housing. That would certainly help. The other opportunity based on COVID and more people working remotely that I think we now have some opportunity to bring in younger families, but those that may be professionals that are able to work remotely at least part of the time. I know that we've had some of my daughter's contemporaries move back and are here now with families. So that is another possibility. And as Patrick said, this is a wonderful place to have a family, to raise your children. We need to keep that. And so I think we need to really focus on moving forward with kindness, consideration, all the things that I think Stockbridge is really we're quite well known in the area for, that we're a very polite group most of the time. I'm a little worried about that eroding lately, but I do think that there is some possibility, but the focus really needs to be on making sure that that housing authority gets some steam behind it, and also, where I disagree, is that the planning board needs to be held accountable. The planning board's job is to actually look at our bylaws and work and adjust our bylaws. So it's one thing to suggest something, but if it doesn't come to fruition, I think we need to remember that as a selectman, you can use your influence, but as voters, we need to ensure that our planning board is really out there and assiduously doing their job, the job that the majority of us would like to see them do.
I want to rebut.
Thank you.
Okay, rebuttal?
It matters to look at the numbers. There's 61 kids this year in grades 7 through 12, and there's 36 kids in grade 1 through 6. So we can talk all we like about platitudes, but the fact is that the trends have been bad for 50 years. For 50 years, we've lost an average of 5 kids in this town on average in our school system. For 50 years, 5 kids a year, all right? And I'll tell you one other thing. Legally in the state of Massachusetts, the select board and the planning board can put forth bylaws, especially zoning bylaws. That is the way the system is designed, and to force it off on just the planning board is an abrogation of duty, in my opinion. Thanks.
Okay. Next question. Preservation versus development. Controversial in every town in the Berkshires, where we pride ourselves in being a place people want to come, but we also live here. What are your thoughts on the current balance between preservation and development in the town of Stockbridge? And I'll ask you to go first, Roxanne.
Well, I think both are important. Basically, as a select board member, I was never in a position where I would ever want to move forward with something that did not meet the requirements of our existing bylaws. Some development must happen. People certainly have a right when they buy property to build. They need to be building so that they are meeting the requirements of our bylaws and obviously of state law. So I think that's extremely important. Preservation, again, historic preservation, I think is extremely important in a small New England town. It's one of our stocks in trade. We have a beautiful town. We have some beautiful old buildings. We have lovely environmental spaces that are protected. So we do have a great deal of our environment right now that is protected. I'd like to see us do a better job of capitalizing on our history and our historic buildings. And I'd like to see as much as possible be preserved, but understanding realistically that can't happen for everything. But again, I think it really depends on our bylaws. And as I said before, selectmen can use their bully pulpit. They can use their influence to try to help bring forward bylaws that they would like to see. On the other hand, the planning board ultimately will be weighing in on that and doing those public hearings. So I think it's important to recognize that people's individual roles, and I think the select board is pretty unique. We do make suggestions, we can bring forward bylaws, but I like to work in conjunction with those who are elected specifically to do that job.
Patrick, your thoughts on the balance between preservation and development?
Well, first of all, I think that our brand is preservation, all right? Not to use a kind of marketing term, but the fact is that our natural beauty and the way this town looks, that is not only goes to the heart of our quality of life, it goes to the heart of our property values. I've heard a whole bunch of crazy ideas in the past couple of years. One was that we should move to like quarter or half acre zoning. You want to see the quickest way to erode the the home you're going to leave to your children's value, is start to decimate our zoning. All right. As it goes, in terms of development, you know, look, my attitude in development is very simple. All right. We have bylaws that outline what you can do. Follow those bylaws. Now, the select board, you may not know this, but the select board has a very interesting word in 6.1.2 of our zoning bylaws. It's the word may. All right? So what the select board has is the right to override those bylaws it may approve. All right? So for 22 years, this select board never rejected a special permit till one while I was chair this year. 22 years. People basically came and said, I'd like to do this, and we have the ability to say may. I think that maybe we need a little bit more balance on that to make sure that everyone follows the rules, because some of the people come in and they say, I'm going to follow the rules, and then other people were coming in for a whole long time and saying, I'd like to build whatever I want to build. Well, that word may is there, it's okay. All right? I think that, that we need to really make sure that we have fair rules for everybody, and we follow those rules, and we apply them fairly. So that whether or not you know us or not know us, you can go to the Zoning Board of Appeals if you want to appeal that. And in fact, the one that we didn't approve, they did, and they got it approved because of a hardship.
Thank you. Before I continue, may I ask, is Joanne Lenski here? Oh, great. Okay. All right. So I think we have time for one more question, and then we're going to turn over to the next. So even though we had many other questions, but I'm going to pick this one. I hope I'm doing the right thing. Short-term rentals are a controversial issue in any area like this and have been all over the country. What are your thoughts on how to improve, change, or whatever you think needs to be done with the short-term rental rules as they exist now? And Roxanne, I think I'll ask you to go first on that one.
All right, well, when I was on the board, Patrick and I were both involved with Chuck Cardillo in creating a short-term rental bylaw. We do not have a plethora of short-term rentals. Obviously, there's always room for expansion, and I think that's happening to some degree. On the other hand, those people are now required to register with the town. They have to give myriads of information, and there are limitations. One thing that we did effectively address that I know other towns did not address was we did address the fact that someone couldn't have, say, an LLC or a corporation where they're buying up multiple properties and running multiple short-term rentals. That was limited in our bylaw. And what we found is we had, with 100 and some odd, I think it was 103 to 108 properties at that time, we had one problem property, only one. Once we did the bylaw, and we had the ability then to issue tickets, issue fines, and those people were notified of various offenses, they started to fix and address the issues that had come up. And as far as I know, we haven't had any recent problems or complaints. So I think effectively when I was on the board with Patrick and Chuck, we took care of that. So I don't see this as being an enormous problem. I think that we need to monitor what's happening. And as properties are sold, it's very nice. If anybody wants to give us a heads up that someone is running, in Town Hall, give Town Hall a heads up that someone is running a short-term rental next door to you. But the bottom line is they have a right to do that. The question is it creating a huge problem for you? And if so, we encourage you to report that. Thank you.
Patrick.
I'm going to talk a little quickly on this one because there's a lot to unpack here. All right. First of all, I believe that short-term rentals, I believe that short-term rentals are a threat to our neighborhoods. All right. I also believe that short-term rentals are a threat to our largest employer, which is the Red Lion Inn. All right. Occupancy rates in Stockbridge, occupancy rates in the county were 54% in 2017. They're in the mid-30s now. And you want to see the thing that'll ruin the character of this town the fastest, you start taking more and more hotel rentals away from our Wheatley and the Red Lion and our 3 inns left out of 8, and you keep transferring those into short-term rentals. The whole character of the town is at stake here. I believe, though, that short-term rentals can help with affordability. If young parents or any parents, any property owners want to rent a property out to help afford a $600,000 mortgage that otherwise they can only afford $400,000, I support that. But I want the owners to be occupying the property while they rent it out, because I don't want party properties in this house. I don't want the guys celebrating their 50th anniversary of college to come in at 20 or 25, like we had on one of our properties, and renting something and making noise all night. This is what I don't want, all right? As far as enforcement goes, the bylaw we wrote is ineffective. Well, I proposed a bylaw similar to what I'm telling you right now, and Chuck and Roxanne overrode it and put Roxanne's in place. Okay, we say we require people to register. 12 people have registered. Michael and I did a demo with a company that tracks this for Stockbridge 3 months ago. There were 135 rentals that day. 12 of them have registered. And I could go on and on this topic.
I see a rebuttal there. Thank you.
A couple of things. One thing is that you need to recognize that people also need to register under state law with the Department of Revenue. So this generates revenues for us, number one. Number two, the bylaw that we created was actually a compromise. And there were elements of Patrick's bylaw and elements of what I had thought would be more appropriate, which was we are limited in terms of how effectively we can actually enforce this. So we do have enforcement, we do have fines, and we have found that people do respond when they are fined. When they get that ticket, they do respond. So the other thing is, why, if we only have 12 people registered, have we done nothing about it since then?
Rebut?
And so I think it's a simple matter of basically, we need to reach out to those people. We know those property addresses, and we need to reach out to those people and let them know. They may not be aware.
The reason we didn't the reason we didn't reach out to them is because I proposed 2 years ago that we hire one of these tracking services like is on the town warrant Monday night. It's going to cost us 12 grand. We had 90 people that registered this year for short-term rentals, and yet there's 135 who are actually operating them. I proposed that we track them, and Roxanne and Chuck opposed that. All right, that's why we couldn't send it out. The state won't give us the addresses and the names of the folks who rent them out. All they do is give us the revenue. Oh, and by the way, I'm the one who proposed that we raise that revenue from 4% to 6%, which is going to save you about 5% of your taxes this year. Thank you.
Can I say anything else?
We can
I
keep
do
going
have
back and
those
forth.
addresses, by the way.
You get one rebuttal each, and you have not used yours, so you may have one.
Okay. Well, I do have the addresses as of maybe 2 years ago. So I do know who was renting at that time. It was available, and I received it through another agency. It does not break down from town to town. I had to do that on my own. So I put this into a spreadsheet, and I was able to call out exactly where these rentals are in our town. So we do have some of that information.
Sorry, you've had your rebuttal already, I'm sorry.
So she got two, I'm just saying.
She
It's
did not
fine.
get two.
Okay.
Did she? Did I move?
It's all right.
Then
That's
I guess
fine.
you
We
get
can
two,
leave
too.
it.
But that'll be it, so,
I'm good.
okay, all right. Well, that is the end of part one, which is
Now we have
our...
our sufficiency. Oh.
Let me finish my words here. The end of part one, from the standpoint of questions and answers, we will now hear closing statements from each of the candidates, and then we'll have a minute or two of transition between the planning board candidates and the candidates for Parks and Recreation Commissioner. So you went first on those statements, right? So Roxanne will go first on the closing.
Well, please allow me with your vote to implement a vision for Stockbridge that supports unity in our beautiful town and preserves our historical. Better? Okay. Allow me, with your vote, to implement a vision for Stockbridge that supports unity in our beautiful town and preserves our historical culture of egalitarianism, kindness, and consideration. I know that my vision for Stockbridge is only possible if we work together as a team that values and respects each of its members. The Select Board is not about any one individual. I understand, by being there, that the toughest challenge in holding elective office is remembering it is never about you. It is about all of us. It is about leveraging the skills and expertise we each bring to the table in town government. Board and commission members, committee members, whether elected or appointed, and volunteers willing to contribute their time. I look forward to Chuck's leadership as chair and Jamie's passion for solutions to support our most vulnerable. I look forward to working with our capable town administrator, Michael Canales, and all of our town hall staff, whose talent and dedication make our town function smoothly. Problems must be fully evaluated and should not be overreaching in their implementation. One must consider the impact on available resources and legal limitations. Vote for me and I will be a thoughtful Select Board member who considers comprehensive data and research before making decisions, who identifies the possible root cause and full scope of a problem in formulating a comprehensive solution, who has respect for all points of view, who listens to colleagues and all residents of Stockbridge, but most of all, who will continue to be a unifier striving for solutions that meet the needs of our community without disenfranchising anyone. We are stronger together than we are divided. And the saying goes, there is no I in team.
Thank you. Patrick.
All right. First of all, thank you for hosting this today. I want to thank the people of Stockbridge for allowing me to serve these past 3 years. So first I wanted to thank you for hosting today, and thank you to the people of Stockbridge for allowing me to serve these last few years. I say to you, when it comes to this town, this oasis of community and beauty and tranquility, we control our destiny. Whether you're the oldest voter at 102 or the youngest at 18, we are all the future. You get to make the choices to determine what direction this town takes. You are empowered to choose community. You are empowered to protect your neighborhoods. You are empowered to preserve and protect the character of Stockbridge. I urge you, don't accept that we can do nothing to counter the forces of the market. Don't accept as inevitable the idea that our elderly neighbors are on their own. Don't accept the cynical and defeatist notion, often lately repeated, that that ship has sailed. Not when it comes to the needs of your children or your grandchildren or others like them to live their lives in the town of our predecessors. The ship does not choose the course, it sails. People do. It matters who is at the helm. You know, it's always easier to do nothing, and I have heard excuses about doing nothing for 3 years. It's always easier to let the garden go to seed. I stand for the hard work it takes to do whatever it takes to make the garden bloom. And I say yes to the ideals that have guided this town for 300 years. I say yes to hope. And please join me in embracing with optimism our future's potential. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you again. Thank you again to our candidates for Select Board. The community really does appreciate your willingness to serve, whether or not you're elected. So thank you. Just being willing is very important. Yes.
We have late-minute questions that I hope you will ask personally of the candidates as they circulate. We did get many questions, so if I've just gotten one from you or got one as you came in, please excuse us for not specifically asking it, but that's why we have refreshments here for you to ask the candidates yourself.
I'm now going to invite up the candidates for Parks and Recreation Commission. Thank you. Great, thanks. And replace the
Brandy. Can we put you over on this side?
Let's see who I am.
That's you. And I've got him backwards. I've got it, I can see what you want to do. Hello, Joanne.
How are you?
Well, how are you?
Yeah, I'm
2
good.
minutes
I'm good.
forward.
Your survey was great.
Thank you.
I really did. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's been very helpful.
It has
A lot
been.
of responses. Yeah.
So, but thank you, I really appreciate it. So I just, when I sort of sense it is getting
Thank you. Great job, Patrick.
to basically think 2 minutes. Think 2 minutes. Okay. Hi. I'm Jennifer Howard, and I'm sorry that we didn't have a chance to talk before. You sort of gathered like in the alternate back and forth. I'm going to just dictatorially choose who goes first and second. And if you want to borrow it, just sort of wave it. I'm not going to ask you. We don't have as many questions for you, so this is going to be a shorter session.
We have less answers for you too, probably. She may.
That's up to you.
I have less
I
answers.
can't help you with that. Okay. And if, as Patrick did, and as Roxanne did too, if you're like, wait a minute, you forgot me, don't be afraid to speak up. It's probably hard when you're in front of everybody trying to think of everything, to make sure that you think, you're always thinking about the next thing and you forget that somebody hasn't talked yet. So if you don't get your chance to speak up, that's okay. Don't let yourself get deflected.
Thank you.
I make lots of mistakes on air. So,
Me too.
and that's better I make them than you. Okay. So
Did you want to go first?
Oh, I don't. I'll let her pick.
I'd like to keep this going if we may. So if you'd like to take your seats. If we could have quiet in the room, even if you don't take your seats. If you would like to converse with anybody, please go outside. In the back of the room there, please. Thank you. Okay, we are now commencing part 2 of this candidate panel, which is the Parks and Recreation Commission race. The Parks and Recreation Commission consists of 3 members, each of whom is elected for a 3-year term. There's 1 open seat to be filled by the winner in Tuesday's election, and the 2 candidates on the ballot are Michael Nathan and Joanne Lenski. We'll use the same format here as we used before. We'll have opening statements, followed by a question and answer period, and followed by closing statements. And after all that, we will also have statements from the candidates who are running unopposed if they are here this morning. Some are and some aren't, I'm afraid. But anyway, so let's start with opening statements. And Joanne, would you like to go first?
Sure.
Remember, very close to the mic.
Oh, yes. Good morning, everyone. So I'm not the best speechwriter, so bear with me here. Okay. Like that. Ah, there we go. Is that better?
Almost swallow it.
Oh, goodness. Spray with.
Can you turn the volume up maybe because it makes it easier for Joanne to read
I
her?
think the sensitivity volume is different from the direction
Yeah, 'cause it's
volume.
hard for her to
And I'm
read
not
it
an
and have
expert
it
with
in-
this stuff, so
I'll speak
Okay.
up, it's fine.
You'll be fine.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so, hello neighbors and friends. My name is Joanne Lenski. Some of you may know me as Johanna, which is my preferred colloquial name. However, my birth certificate and mom say otherwise. I have been a Stockbridge resident since moving from my hometown of Dalton in 2020. I live here with my 6-year-old son at Pinewoods, and... Really? Oh, no.
Actually, would you like to stand here? That might work better.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought it was... Like right here?
All right. There's one.
Okay. You can see my computer here. Okay, where was I? Okay. I have been a Stockbridge resident since moving from my hometown of Dalton in 2020. I live here with my 6-year-old son, and we have come to love the town and our community at Pinewoods very much. It was also that same year at the height of COVID that I spent the majority of my time socializing with my neighbors and bringing my son to the town parks. Of course, the more time you spend in a place, the more opportunity there is to look and notice things. My Pinewoods neighbors seem to have a lot of complaints with their housing, and I felt compelled and driven to help. While people were busy cleaning out their attics and garages during COVID, I got busy starting a tenant union. In the last 3 years, thanks to amazing people like Patrick White and Randy Werner, and with my advocating on behalf of Pinewoods residents, the Affordable Housing Trust Committee and the Pinewoods Community Association were born. As the president and founder of PCA, I advocate for 21 of our affordable housing tenants at the municipal level, and having attended many Affordable Housing Trust Committee, Planning Board, and Finance Committee meetings in both Stockbridge and in Great Barrington. In the last 3 years, I have spearheaded several projects for PCA, including a bus stop on Route 102 for the many children and several commuting adults living at Pinewoods, our community garden revitalization project, and also our playground project. Since 2020, I've worked with a well-known playground contractor that has been designing and installing municipal and private playgrounds for 90 years in the state of Massachusetts and in the Northeast. In that time, I have learned quite a bit about site engineering and the playground design process. This company also has access to millions of dollars in both federal and private industry grants to help make new and engaging play structures available to towns, cities, and affordable housing communities all over the state. Oh my goodness, I'm already out of 10.
You have 10 seconds, so you can complete your sentence.
I'll save the rest for my closing statement. Many of you have seen my voter survey posted in the community boards on Stockbridge updates. In this survey, I asked about 20 questions asking the voters their opinions on everything from pickleball courts, how to use our trail, how often they use our trails, and if they have any safety concerns, and what you would like to see in terms of recreational activities. I also asked you to contribute your own ideas if you have any. I did this because oftentimes we were asked to elect people in office, and almost never are we the voters asked what we think or what we want or what we feel we need.
Thank you. Okay. Michael.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. First of all, I want to thank Jennifer and Ramel for doing this, but I also want to thank Joanne, really, for running and
this thing down a little bit. There we go.
For running and participating in our town's well-being. We need more of you. So many elections go uncontested. I'm going off, but I really feel that there are only 2 contested positions in this town, and I'm so appreciative, at least that Joanne and I are running. We need more of you running, Joanne, and so many elections go uncontested. So little choices. So good morning. My name is Michael Nathan, and I'm running for Parks and Rec. I have been a resident for over 20 years, participating in many, many town committees. Parks and Recs can be such a strong engine for good. It can create so many added benefits, both physical and psychological, for our children, our young adults, our young parents, and our elderly. It is essential for our community's health. So how can I help? In order to learn more, I met with every member of the Parks and Recs group. I met with Steve Knopp, who's the chair, and our town select board chair, our town administrator, and highway department. And among the many questions I asked, this seemed to be like the most important to all. What has been the biggest drawback in getting projects done? I don't believe we have a scarcity in ideas. What I believe in is that we need to reorganize the Parks and Recreation to make it flow better. So the consensus was we need more Parks and Rec meetings. Sometimes, wow.
It happens quick.
Wow.
You have to practice these in advance to learn what takes 2 minutes.
Okay, so can I take 30 seconds?
You have 10 seconds left. I mean, finish your sentence.
All right, well, basically, what the consensus was that we needed more Parks and Rec meetings, and we needed to be more consistent in our meetings with town administration and highway department concerning projects in the work. Please remember that Parks and Rec is all about community. So in addition to all that is done by Parks, we must also reach out to those that cannot take advantage of our town's outdoor space. And I met with the Housing Authority Director at Heaton Court, Andrea Lindsay and James Welch, where many residents are disabled and elderly. Let me just finish my sentence. I asked how best to utilize Parks and Recs for their needs. Just getting to the town beach was an issue for them. We need to find a solution to that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I apologize for having to interrupt, but these 2 minutes is 2 minutes. So, okay, we'll now start with the question section, and I'll remind you that the questions will alternate the way we ask them, and you'll have 2 minutes to respond, and just indicate to me if you'd like to rebut if you hear something in the other responder that you'd like to address. So, first question. What special skills and experience do you bring to this job? And I'll ask Michael to start.
I am entrepreneurial by nature. At 27 years old, I started my company, and we designed sporting accessories for runners. 45 years later, our company, Nathan Sports, is in every major sporting good chain and running specialty shop. I was the chair of the Stockbridge Bowl Stewardship Commission, on the board of the Stockbridge Bowl Association, of the Stockbridge Bowl Association, where I helped raise over $2 million for the dredging restoration project. I was a co-founder of the zebra mussel monitoring system, which was so important to keep invasive zebras out of the lake. And now, 10 years later, kudos to the monitors, there's no zebra mussels. And I served as president of the Lake Drive Association for 6 years, in which we wrote our bylaws, which helped govern the growth that we were experiencing. I'm pretty active with all these groups, and I understand the organizational importance of having plans in place.
Thank you. Joanne, what special skills and experience do you bring to this job?
As I mentioned earlier in my early speech, that I have, for the last 3 years, been working with a company based in Medway, Mass., O'Brien and Sons. They've been building playgrounds and parks for 90 years, which is quite a long time for any company to be around and doing the same thing. And I've learned a lot through that process, as far as, and part of that is, the site development and also the financial aspect of that, trying to find creative ways to find funding for our park at Pine Woods. I think I could do the same for the town if needed. I am also an entrepreneur. I have my own small gardening, landscaping business, so I love gardening and planting flowers, and so I expect to put in some volunteer time for the Parks and Recs Department if elected to help beautify our town. I'm just a very resourceful person. I'm a single mother. I've had to make a lot of things work with very little. And I'm extremely good at researching opportunities. You can ask Patrick. I've sent him a lot of great ideas for the affordable housing end of things on federal money that's private funding that's available for projects, and especially for affordable housing projects, but for municipal towns as well. I'm finding a lot of crossover in that in the types of fundraising available, and I'd also be willing to put in the time to do my own fundraising. I could do a GoFundMe. I have a lot of creative ideas for fundraising for things. I don't expect this to come out of the taxpayer's pocket, any ideas I would propose. And I'm a very passionate person. I care about my town. I care about where my son plays and where everybody else's children play, and also about the people who don't have children who just want to enjoy our parks.
Thank you. Okay. Next question. Would you support a dog park for Stockbridge? And if so, why or why not? Why or why not, depending on your answer. And Joanne, I'll ask you to go first on that.
I think I would probably I wish I included that in my survey, actually. It would be great to hear what other people think. I think that we have a lot of available space in town, trails for people to walk on, although I noticed some of them are a little bit narrow, and it can be hard to pass when you have groups of people, especially when there's dogs and children. I think I would, first of all, ask my other two committee members what they thought. Obviously, it's a group process, but I personally think if there's space for it, I don't see why not. If it's not taking away space from another activity or another field or park. I don't see any reason why we couldn't have a dog park, although I would hope that people who have dogs would enjoy our trails and parks that we have now, and that we could improve them and make them wider for everybody to enjoy.
Thank you. Michael?
Anybody that has a dog wants a dog park mostly, but I mean, I'm just throwing this out, that a dog park, we almost have a dog park. From Gould Meadows to Bullard Woods, we have probably more dog walking than anywhere else. So I spoke to a few people on that trail about a dog park. And one of the issues with a dog park is that we have to make sure that people clean up after themselves. This is really a big thing. And if the people who have the dogs do not clean up after themselves, it falls on the highway department. So the highway department, because that's who really does the cleaning and the maintenance of all the public areas for the town. So it's really a discussion to have with them also. But I'm for a dog park. I think it's a great social area for people to meet and a fun place to go to, and it gets people outside. But I recommend the walk from Gould Meadows to Bullard Wood. Keep your dogs on a leash is the rules, and that's my answer.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What changes would you like to see in the commission and its priorities? And Michael, I'll ask you to go first on that.
This is sort of leads into my closing remarks. And what I'd like to see is Lennox does this, not to compare us to Lennox, but Lennox has a full schedule on their website of what's going on, where the tennis courts are, where the pickleball courts are. I think one of the things that I would like to see is reorganization of priorities and what we have, what we currently have, and how to make it known to the public. I get calls of, do we have a pickleball court? That should be on the website. Do we have this or that? That should all be on the website. I believe that if we have a good plan, a short, medium, and long-term plan, we can fill in the blank spaces. But we need a guide so that everyone in the town, the town administrator, and the highway department are all on the same page. I think we can go forward easier rather than putting out fires or working on just individual things. We've been working for many years on the beach, and I see when I look at the minutes, I see that this is a long-term plan. This is really their only 5-year plan was the beach. There could be many more plans that will make it exciting for Parks and Recs to work on if they see the future and the town sees the future of what is to be.
Thank you. Joanne, what changes would you like to see in the commission and its priorities?
I'm going to agree with Michael in that I think that there should be more said on the town website about activities in town. Also things like the kayak racks. I only recently saw something posted about the kayak racks, and I've been looking at the town website for the last few years, and I maybe I missed it. I apologize if I'm saying the wrong thing, but I haven't seen much information about it, and I've been trying to get a spot on the kayak rack for 3 years. So I definitely think having a little bit more information about recreational opportunities on the website would be good. I also think that we should have more similar recreational opportunities for the town. So in my survey that I asked, the voter survey, I did propose about 20 different ideas that I had. Actually, Michael and I both had some similar ideas, such as intra-town sports, which I guess we used to have years ago, community sports clinics for adults and children, community picnics with entertainment, which a lot of people from the survey said they wanted to see, nature education classes for adults and children, a fishing derby, outdoor movies in the park, winter ice skating rink in the park. Apparently that used to be part of Stockbridge years ago, and I've had a lot of people say they'd love to bring that back. Black History Month celebration in the park with guest speakers, storytelling, community canvas art. I mean, the list goes on. I encourage you all to look at the survey. It's posted on Facebook on the Stockbridge Community Board, as well as Great Barrington Community Board and Stockbridge Updates. But and please fill it out so I can get a little bit more read on what other people would like to see. But I'd like to see at least 5 of these, implemented. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to help with that if elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and our last question, because we're running low on time. You did get a chance to answer, right? Yeah, you're looking at me like...
Like how?
Like you want to say something.
Well, I just want to say I want to thank Joanne for saying that the ideas that she's coming out with are all really good, and we both had lunch once, and I gave her all my ideas for her to use because it's really for the good of the town. It's really not for one candidate or another. And she put in her ideas, and I could see that she used some of my ideas, and I really think that's a great thing, and I thank you for putting that out.
I'll treat that as your rebuttal.
That is my rebuttal.
Okay, good. Great. Did you have any more to add?
Nope.
Good. All right, so last question so that we can get to the statements in part 3 and then get on to the refreshments and
The most
chances
important part.
talk, and of course your closing statements. What are your top priorities for your term in office if you are elected? And Joanne, I'll ask you to go first.
Well, it's hard to say, not having been in this position before. I'm new to town government, so I expect that I'll learn a lot of what the challenges are for the other 2 people on the commission, and I presume in my experience with working in the affordable housing end of things that there's a lot of funding, challenges that may come up for implementing some of these ideas. But I certainly think that I would definitely start with making more information available, possibly on the website, and making it more accessible for people to just know what we do have available currently. And I think working with the other 2 people to try to, I'm going to, even if I am elected or not, I will be giving my survey information to the other 2 commissioners, and hopefully they can use that information to inform them for what they are going to be, what their plans are, having been on the commission for the last year or 2. But I would certainly like to try to prioritize safety in the parks and in the trails, things like parking, and maybe getting some more equipment for toddlers, age children, which I've seen a lot of in the surveys come up, and just trying to implement what people want. I really just want to be a conduit for people to and someone who is going to work hard to make your ideas and wants and needs happen.
Thank you. Michael, your top priorities if you're elected.
My top priority is less about ideas right now than it is about sort of rechanging how Parks and Recs functions. And it's really difficult for Parks and Rec, in fairness to them, because there are 3 people on Parks and Rec, and of course they're not allowed, because of the open meeting laws, they're not allowed to talk to each other. We don't have a supervisor that could work with them. Lennox has 5 people on the board, and Great Barrington has 9 people on the board, and they each have supervisors that help them out. It's not easy being 3 people with things that need to be constructed. So one of the things that I'd like to do to change is really figure out a system where all of us are on the same page as to what we want to get accomplished, who we need to talk to, how we get it done, how we fund it, how we get CPC money if we need funding, CPC money. But I believe as I read more of the minutes and more of the agendas, that the agendas are more of issues that have to get done, but I would like to see more long-term planning. Even long-term planning could be a year from now, or 2 or 3 years, or 5 years, but it'll make it easier and more interesting for us going forward. And easiness is really such an important part of what I want to make it for the Parks and Rec when we have our meetings.
Thank you.
The other thing, one last thing, I apologize, I didn't have my glasses on, is I also want to make sure that we need to make our parks and beaches and all the recreational areas accessible to everyone. Those with disabilities, elderly, I want to put that's an agenda of mine.
Okay, thank you. Now, did you have a rebuttal?
Sort of.
Okay, well, sort of means yes.
I also feel that we should make our parks and trails more accessible for those with disabilities. I actually did include that as a question in my survey. And, you know, I also just wanted to say, I do understand that, you know, the town municipal boards and things do have challenges, but I'm also not looking to reinvent the wheel. I'm trying to go into this very humbly and know that there's 2 other people on the commission that I've yet to meet, and also, you know, that they have quite a bit of experience and knowledge that they'll impart on me if elected, and then I'm going to work with that. I'm going to do my best to be resourceful and hardworking and passionate and try to work with those challenges. I'm not looking to go in and to, you know, like I said, reinvent the wheel. I also do want to just mention that I am a full-time resident. That means I will be here full-time all through the year. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Now it's time for closing statements. And I believe that Joanne went first on the openers, so Michael, you go first on the closing.
I believe that we need a clear master plan, a blueprint for short, medium, and long-term goals that everyone can understand and collectively work on. I will work closely with the town citizens and the departments, brainstorming ideas and working on what Stockbridge needs. We should reach out to nonprofits that might join us in donating their talents or spaces to expand programming. They could join us to educate and entertain our residents. This may perhaps include student musicians from Tanglewood, yoga lessons from Perpalo, and gardening lessons from the Berkshire Botanical Garden. We currently have a pilot program, which is payment in lieu of taxes, and it really hasn't worked out at all. So my thinking is, if we can't get payment from them of finance, can we get payment of goods? We're so many talented associations and organizations we have all around us, and hopefully they'll say yes. We need to create a comprehensive website where we can find everything. Perhaps a map of the town with all the parks and what's going on. Where are the pickleball courts, the tennis courts, the beach, the playgrounds for our children, and basically, I want to know, what are your ideas? So, in closing, Parks and Recs, it's all about community. It's about fun and games and recreation. It's a commission that I feel would give me or anyone else great satisfaction to work on or to serve on, and Stockbridge people using and enjoying the fruits of your labor. What could be better? Thank you.
Thank you. And Joanne.
Oh, sorry.
Friends, I am not a politician. What I am is an advocate, a neighbor, and a friend. I'm a conduit for the collective voice of the people. I want to be someone that you can stop by in passing on your way to the coffee shop or the post office and say hello and let me know what you think about this or that, whether it's about our parks or something else. I received many helpful, informative, and some surprising responses to my voter survey that will help to inform me, if elected, to find the necessary resources to implement your requests, even if it means I have to do the hard work of fundraising myself. I am not a politician that will make lofty promises and tell you what you want to hear just to get elected. I am a concerned and involved citizen, a mother, a small business owner, a community organizer, and a genuine person who wants to make Stockbridge a more engaging, enjoyable, and attractive place to live for a new generation of Stockbridge neighbors to come. Thank you for your support and hopefully your vote.
Thank you again to both of you
Thank you.
for participating in this. I'm a little bit of a disadvantage because I don't know the people in the room. This concludes parts 1 and 2 of today's agenda, and we are almost done. I would like to invite the candidates for election who are running unopposed to come forward, but I don't know if they're in the room. So, do we have Brandy Page here? How about Elias Lefferman? Wonderful, thank you. John Lidici? Or Wayne Slajek? Well, pardon me? Yes, Elias is here. Elias, I would like to invite you to come up and make a statement, yes, because this is for everybody to get to know your candidates. We won't be having a debate or a panel, but you're welcome to make a 2-minute statement and use the podium here. Thank you. Thanks for coming, too. You'll need the microphone.
I'll need the microphone. My name's Elias Lefferman. I am running for the position on the Board of Health. We have 2 wonderful positions who are on it, and I'm running because I recognize after the pandemic that one can make decisions about physical health, but there is a side effect on our social and emotional health. I'm a clinical psychologist as well as a clinical social worker, and I'm familiar with issues that affect our community. And my greatest concern is learning what's going on, gathering the information, sharing information, and working with you, the community, to make decisions that can best impact all of us in terms of our health, safety, and well-being. So while physical decisions are being made, I want to make sure that there's a voice for what happens on the psychological side. We saw the effects of the pandemic on loneliness, on social isolation, and what can we do in the event of another situation to reach out to those people who may be most affected. How do we use our resources? Visiting nurses, churches, whatever it might be, police. We know how to co-respond with the police to see who do we reach out to? Who are the vulnerable people in our community? And how as a community do we help them, not just physically, but emotionally and socially as well, because we are a package deal. We don't have one without the other. And that became very evident with the pandemic. So I thought my experience as a psychologist would complement this board and the 2 physicians who are on it. So that's why I wanted to join it. I can make a contribution, and I listen to the people in our community. It's incredible the people that we have, and I'd be honored to join them in helping to make this the best community we can have. And it's all about health, safety, and well-being for all of us, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you. So I will just remind you that the other candidates on the ballot are Brandy Page, running for assessor, Elias, whom you just heard from, running for health commissioner, John Lidici, running for water and sewer commissioner, and Wayne Slajek, running for planning board, respectively. We're now done with part 3, so I have a few closing remarks, and then we can get on to the refreshments and getting to know your candidates. And I have to say, as a visitor here, I've been very impressed with both the quality of the candidates and the quality of the audience. Thank you very much. So let me get my props ready here. I want to thank our candidates again for their willingness to serve our community, and also thank CTSB for taping this and making it available to the public. We also thank Stockbridge Updates for their ongoing support, as well as for their publicity relating to this event. And of course, we thank the League of Women Voters of Central Berkshire County for everything they put into this event, including the cookies. The League of Women Voters reminds you that voting day is Tuesday, May 16th. Polls will be open here in the town office building in the gymnasium from 8 a.m. until 6:30 p.m., not the usual hours you're used to thinking about. So please be aware they close at 6:30. You may also cast your absentee ballot in person at the town office building until noon on Monday, May 15th. So now we've concluded our panel for the candidates in this annual town election. I thank you again for your interest and hope that what you have heard here will be useful to you as you make your vote in the election. And to remind you that refreshments will be served as soon as I finish speaking, so I will swiftly close with the important reminder that democracy is not a spectator sport. Every vote counts, yours particularly. Thank you very much. Put the time.